Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining our keynote session for today, Harnessing the Power of Experiential Learning. My name is Megan Saul, VP of Marketing, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Today, we'll hear from two colleagues of mine, Jack Koziol, CEO and founder of Infosec, and Keatron Evans, Principal Security Researcher, Instructor, and Infosec Skills author. So for those of you who are not familiar with Jack, he actually started his career in software security in the finance industry and authored one of the first books in writing software exploits. It's called the Shell Coder's Handbook. From delivering Infosec's first boot camps to scaling the company to what you've come to know us for today, Jack offers a wealth of knowledge in the cyber education and SaaS software startup space. So thanks for joining us today, Jack.
Thanks, Megan.
Keatron is a cybersecurity workforce development expert with over 17 years of experience in penetration testing, incident response, and information security management for federal agencies and the Fortune 500. Keatron is an established researcher, instructor, and speaker, as well as the lead author of the best-selling book, Chained Exploits: Advanced Hacking Attacks from Start to Finish. Thanks for hanging out with us today, Keatron.
Thanks, Megan.
So before we jump in, I want to preface that these two go way back to the very early days of Infosec. They've known each other for over 15 years and were two of the first experts in the ethical hacking scene. Today, they'll talk about this experience and how it has helped them train thousands of cybersecurity professionals and shaped what experiential, hands-on cybersecurity education looks like, not only today, but also what we've got planned for the future. So let's dive in. Jack, I'm a big believer that we have to know first where we've been to have a better idea of where we're going next. So before we get into what we've got planned for the future of cybersecurity education, I want to take a step back and talk to you both about the start of sort of the early days of your cybersecurity education careers. And so, Jack, before you got into cyber education, you were working at a bank. That's a very big change. Tell me about that experience. What drove that?
Yeah, well, I was working at a regional bank, and I remember at my first annual year review, being the only cybersecurity person at the bank. I remember talking to my VP, my manager, and he told me I'd be the only cybersecurity person ever working at the bank. So that was quite an interesting perspective, and one that this is a long time ago. This was 17 years ago. So I went and I wrote a book. It's called Shell Coder's Handbook. It's really like Megan mentioned, the first book to really explain how to write software exploits. And after I wrote that book, I kept on getting requests to come and teach this material all around the world. And a lot of people were very interested in it. And I used up all my vacation time. And once I used up all my vacation time, I quit my day job and I spent the next couple of years flying around the world teaching ethical hacking and pen testing and exploit development. One thing from back then too that was kind of different is being a hacker was seen as a negative thing. It was something that you don't let your kids become a hacker kind of attitude, and but really that attitude has much changed, and it's been an interesting journey about helping people understand the offensive aspects of cybersecurity and seeing really an attitude change across the industry in regards to what we need to learn and how we need to teach it, and who needs to know this information.
That's such an interesting story. Thanks for sharing that with us. And Keatron, I have to ask you, what was it like, in the early days? What were those first few boot camps like to deliver?
They were very intense and very long. We spent long hours. We'd go to 10:30, 11, sometimes 12 o'clock at night from 8 in the morning. But it was different because we were making sure that people could actually leave and know how to do the things that we were teaching. We weren't just doing exam crams, getting people through the exam. I mean, people were passing the exams for sure, but we spent that extra time to make sure that they could actually take these skills and that certification and go to work Monday the next week and actually do something with it and have a real impact on the security of the organization. So we went beyond exam cram and that type of thing. That really made us a little bit different than what everybody else was doing.
So I think one of the things that a lot of people don't realize about InfoSec is we were some of the first people to deliver online cybersecurity education. And so as the company and the demand for these boot camps grew, Jack, I'm really interested in what sort of led the decision to develop that online training program way back in 2012. Things were working well, so why the investment here? What drove this?
Yeah, really, it was about being able to reach people where they're at in order to train them. And with an online platform, we were able to reach people, and they wouldn't have to travel to attend. Once we started developing the software for our online training products, we found that we could actually do things better and in a more innovative way. Like one thing that we realized we could do quickly is we can record all the sessions. So if someone has to jump out for a little bit, they can jump right back in. We also noticed that, we were on the same boot camps with different instructors at different points in the year, and we could record those and make those available to all the students that are in the boot camp. So if you want to hear a different perspective, or a different viewpoint, or a different way someone explains something, you can jump right and do that. And then lastly, it gave those that are buying the training and holding the purse strings a way to really assess the effectiveness of the training. So they could review a lot of the information around attendance and all that stuff to build a better case for return on investment for our enterprise customers. So those reasons really drove that, and then just people having more of a interest and aptitude in doing online learning. It became more accepted. So we followed that global trend.
And Keatron, were you skeptical about taking these sort of interactive boot camps that we were building out online at first? Like, what was that like?
I wasn't really skeptical, but I did have some reservations. I had questions. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And it turns out that most of those things, we found a better way to do it. Once we finally migrated most of our offerings to the online format, we had even better ways to do some of the stuff that, I had a little bit of concerns about. I mean, it wasn't ever a question of should we do this? It was just a matter of how can we do this and still maintain this quality that we were known for in the industry. And fortunately, we were able to do that really well. Things like the CTFs, one thing that was different is now those CTFs can be available to students for as long as they want them. Whereas back then, once I tore that lab down Friday, like that was it. That CTF was never going to be seen again, because one of the things I was known for is creating new ones on the fly every week. So now all of this information and this data and this knowledge is captured, and it's permanently available now, which is a capability we didn't have without the online platforms.
That's good insight. And so let's keep that train going. So I think one of the cool things about first stepping into this online area in 2012 is that when COVID hit, right, in 2020 and shut everyone down, we were really well prepared to keep servicing our customers. I think at the time about 75% were already taking these boot camps online. And so that, 2012 to 2020, that's a wide span of time. So Keatron, was everyone in the space innovating around this? Like, what were you seeing happening in that wider industry, and how did what we were up to at Infosec compare to that over that 8-year span?
Sure. Well, so there was a mix. A lot of competitors or others told us we were crazy for even attempting to do technical training online. But it was evolving for sure. Online courses via just reading happened, and then there were just videos. You had your learn on demand videos where you didn't really do anything hands-on. You just listened to someone explain concepts. That was big for a bit. Then you had YouTube and these other platforms, and now you have LinkedIn Learning. So I think most organizations, when they saw it as a viable solution, they started to kind of come around. But initially, we were kind of on an island. There were just us and maybe one or two others that were attempting it, and we were just kind of out there. But and that's led to where we are now, to where we're engaging these people at a micro level, and like Jack said earlier, meeting them where they are. You don't have to come into this, with a very specific background or a very specific knowledge base. We have a library, and we have enough content that we can pretty much accommodate anyone, wherever they're coming from.
Yeah, and I think the really interesting part of this story is we weren't just trying to bring learning online, right? We're trying to bring that interactive, that hands-on, that experiential learning to our platform. So regardless of where someone might be looking to study, they could access that experience. And so, Jack, let's talk about that a bit. Like, what was the impact on the student experience when we were able to bring these things online? Like, what did we see happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just something that we think makes a difference. And while it's still early, there's a lot of data that shows that experiential learning does a lot of things. First of all, it increases engagement. Um, in our cyber ranges, the only way in our new security awareness training platform, the only way is to interact with the storyline and make choices and to interact. You can't be passive, so you have to interact. This fundamental shift turns from passive learning to active learning, which we all know boosts retention. If you're interacting with it, if you're engaging all of the parts of your brain and thinking through it, you're gonna retain a lot more. And there's a ton of adult learning science out there that shows this, and you can see this in all education, everything from K-12, college, professional education like we do, that this experiential learning and active learning is a better way to learn. It's more interesting as well too. And finally, it really accelerates these behaviors, which we know is critical for the security industry. By combining these engaging storylines and real world scenarios, it's going to help people really understand what they need to do and then make the right decision when it comes time from an awareness and culture shift point of view. So it really helps with everything that we're after as part of an education platform company.
Yeah, and so to recap, it sounds like it's really all about helping employees learn by doing, boosting that information retention, and accelerating that skill mastery. And so, Keatron, as one of our longest standing instructors, I'm really interested in, do you have any examples of where you've seen this approach just really work, right? Like helping a student really connect the dots and grasp a concept.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I like to kind of put out there about our method and the platforms that we have is our online learning platform is very elastic as compared to most. And what I mean by that is, most learning platforms push you in a certain direction and you just kind of just a forward motion. And our platform is designed where you can go backwards and forwards, you can go horizontal. It's set up specifically so that if you get to a topic and you want to go horizontally off to another tangent on that topic, we've got the environment for that. And for some learners, that's what actually works. So we've seen firsthand where people that maybe need a little more reinforcement on that specific topic can like move horizontally really quickly to a related topic and read up on it and fill that gap in just a matter of 30 minutes and move on to the next part. And they are much more holistic in their understanding of that knowledge or that technique or that concept. And it's something that we like to call sticky. It becomes sticky. So they don't forget it, after Friday. It's something that they can take into next week and the next week. And that's how you truly build a body of knowledge, is you take something that you can make sticky and then you put other things on top of that. So we've seen that really accelerate, and I've seen a big uptick in that because of this platform. So that's one area. We also apply this concept a lot to the in-person boot camps as well. The CTFs, for example, even when I do in-person or private classes now, I depend heavily on our online platform because it's just so robust and there's so many different directions we can go with it. Sometimes I'll go into a situation and the students are all really super advanced. Well, I've got something to throw at them now. I can take them out of the textbook and put them right into the online platform, and we can go just as advanced as they need to go. So that's definitely been helpful as well. Again, allowing us to meet whatever the learning challenge is, where it is, and build from it.
That's really good context. So, Jack, you touched on this earlier, but I'm interested in, like, in terms of security awareness and training, is this just a thing for like technical skill development, or have we seen this really help people out in the awareness and training space as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Megan. And I think that this adult learning science around experiential learning, it also works really well in security awareness. We've seen that with our launch of the Choose Your Own Adventure games we rolled out this year. the choose your own adventure games, if you haven't seen them, they use dozens of interactive scenarios, decisions, and rewards, and they help employees learn by doing and accelerate security behavior change. So the game storylines foster people interacting in those critical thinking and decision making ways in a safe place where they can go. And we see a lot of people in choose your own adventure. Sometimes they'll just pick the wrong option just because they're curious what happens. And that's okay to do in a game, right? You can't do that in the real world. You can't click on a phishing email and infect your computer with ransomware and just to see what happens. Well, I guess there are stories of people doing that, but anyways, that's kind of the whole idea is to immerse people in this and allow them to experience the negative and positive consequences of their actions and what they know.
And so we had a question come in, and I think this is a good one to toss over to Keatron. So this question's from Bob, and he's wondering, in terms of just teaching general technical skills, troubleshooting, whatever that may be, maybe this is a good, VM setup type question, but any tips there for helping students catch on to these concepts and, kind of at scale?
Yeah, I would say focus, of course, our environment, everything's set up for you already. So you can, and that's one thing that I noticed too, is even with teaching in-person classes, I would spend the first half of the first day just getting people's VMs set up and helping them get those working. And having a platform like this it gives me back a whole half day of time to just focus on teaching them the content. So my first piece of advice would be to make sure your environment is solid and you don't have to worry about that going into whatever the learning situation is. You want that to be something that's kind of transparent to the student. I know there's learning and setting up a lab, but that's a different learning. If you're teaching cybersecurity, you should be teaching cybersecurity and not focus so much on that other stuff. So definitely, I would say that would be one piece of advice. And the other is, try to break the training down into small digestible bits. Don't do 2-hour sessions. That doesn't work well.
So that's a good point. And then carving out time, right, for those small sessions as well to make sure it actually gets done. and so kind of related to this, Jack or Keatron, interested in, where you're hearing this really make the difference for people. I know that oftentimes, I can read 1,000 books about something, but until I actually do it, and have someone there to help me and walk me through it as I'm trying something for the first time, it can be really hard to actually feel confident, right, in your ability to then go to work and do that same thing on your own. Any anecdotal stories that you can share with the audience today related to this and where this has really helped people kind of reach that aha moment?
Yeah, I think learning is personal, a very personal endeavor, and when it's done through a corporate environment, it can create a lot of strong emotions. People can feel, have a very negative emotion to being forced to learn something that's not relevant to their job, or they can feel extremely negative about that, or on the opposite side of it, they can feel really excited. They can feel empowered that their organization is investing in them and helping them along with their career, or helping them protect their digital identity or their family. So, I mean, we see obviously more of the positive aspect of that, and just people that say they really love the cyber range. They love the choose your own adventure content. They love, attending a class with Keatron or some of the other people on his team. There's a very strong emotional reaction that you might not get with other things that you do and other products that you orchestrate within your company. You're not going to get the same emotional reaction out of a endpoint, protection, maybe in some cases, but I mean, people have very strong emotions. So I mean, we hear a lot of that, and we're really excited to bring those experiences to our customers and to their learners, and we look forward to doing that for as long as we're partnered with customers. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen students literally cry from passing exams. Like Jack was saying, they're so emotionally connected, invested in this that they're literally crying because they passed the exam, or they got that, were able to master that technique. I've even seen that happen many times. And one of the things too that goes with that is if you think about the worst possible situation you can be in is from a employment standpoint is you're in a job, you don't know how to do the job, and you don't have a path to where you can see clearly that you're going to ever learn how to do that job. Like that's a terrible situation to be in. And I've seen a training experience take a person from that point to where they were in a job, they didn't like the job because they didn't understand it and didn't know how they were going to learn. And just a matter of time of taking a training or going through our platform, now they understand the job, which means they like it a little more. And it's easy to like things when you're constantly learning and you feel like you're accomplishing something. So you can go from I hate this to I love this, just because now you're understanding it and you're improving your own knowledge about a topic. I used to watch the Create Your Own Adventures. I used to do that Bear Grylls Create Your Own Adventures with my son. And to this day, I still remember more facts about the different bugs you can and can't eat, just from us choosing the wrong one and killing ourselves in the Bear Grylls Choose Your Own Adventure game. So that learning perspective and the attachment to that and how it can make you feel one way or another is very, very powerful. And, that's one of the things that we've always had. I remember a long time ago, Jack and I were talking about, a class and how it went a certain way, and we were trying to figure out how to make it better. And he's like, well, the one thing that you did that the other people didn't is, you cared about what's going on with the students. And that's just, there's no way to teach that to someone. And that was a real moment for me 15 years ago almost, because I just assumed that everybody did, but it is a very emotional thing. And it's something that you have to take, really good care of. And we have that responsibility as leaders in the training industry to really be considerate of that. And that's why we're always constantly trying to evolve and make it better for our learners.
I love that. So we've got about 7 minutes left. And so let's wrap this up with a few closing statements from you all. So as people leave the session today, like what's one piece of advice or something that you've learned over the years in terms of cybersecurity education that you'd like to share with the audience? And Keatron, let's go ahead and start with you. I liked where you're going. I think that it's so obvious that people enjoy what they're good at, and companies enjoy people who are good at things. And so, with that in mind, like what advice can you leave people here with in terms of what it takes to motivate themselves as well as maybe their teams, their org to kind of level up and get a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. So one, I would like to start with a student that was in nursing. She was an Air Force nurse, and she reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, look, I want to do cyber. I don't really know that much about it. I've tried, taking these classes on my own. I didn't do well. So I literally gave her a skills account, took me 20 minutes to create a custom learning path for her that was like 85 hours. And she went through the whole thing. And within a year, she's now a junior pen tester, at a government agency. So that, for me, that was one of the proudest moments. So what I would say to people listening to this, if you're not in cyber and you're trying to get into it or you're just getting into it, is the biggest mistake people make when trying to get into cyber is not doing it. Like, don't sit there and procrastinate about it. Jump into the platform or jump into a platform and just start learning, start absorbing the content. I promise you it's not as bad as it seems like it is. And, we're committed to meeting you where you are. That's one of the things that we want to try to push out. So that's my message is come on over, jump in, get started. Like, we're here to help you and we want to get as many people in as we can.
Very, very solid advice. It doesn't happen on its own, right? And so whatever it takes, I love that approach. And so Jack, what about you? We spent a lot of time talking about experiential learning, that hands-on learning through this session. Is this thing here to stay? Is it just a trend? What should people be thinking of right now?
Yeah, I think it's a trend that's going to accelerate. If you think about what we can do with technology now, with platforms, with engagement, and you combine that with what can be created in terms of content, and combine those two trends, there's a big tailwind for experiential learning and about being able to reach people more effectively than we have been able to in the past. And what we've seen with the trend is that we need to be adaptable, especially with the pandemic. That's a great example. Not all of these experiential learning experiences are created equal, and not all people want the same experience. So we have to meet people where they're at, and use our tools and our creativity to reach them, and to push the envelope forward. That's kind of where that's where the future is going, and that's the best tools that we have in our toolbox to engage people with the education we need them to receive.
And on that note, for where we're going, Jack, I know that on the InfoSec IQ side of things, we've got the Choose Your Own Adventure security awareness games. On the InfoSec skilled side of things, we have our interactive cyber ranges. For those of you in the audience who were able to attend the roadmap session yesterday, you got a tease of what we've got in the hopper here. But why don't you share just a little bit about what we've got planned to help make kind of taking advantage of this thing easier for everyone, regardless of maybe how many people they have on their team.
Yeah, absolutely. The efforts that we're working on the products are going to make it much easier, and we're really looking forward to experimenting ourselves with some new product directions in terms of realistic phishing simulation events to try to improve upon phishing simulation. I think there's some room to innovate. Phishing simulation hasn't really changed much in 10 years, right? We send people phishing emails. They click on them, sometimes they don't. I think there's a lot of opportunities to innovate there with experiential learning experiences, and I think we can lean in on the gamification that flows naturally and is very short and helps people get to the point and helps them experience that. So we're really excited to accelerate these things within the cyber range, then InfoSec skills, and then with new content types in IQ.
Excellent. And Keatron, on your end, what can students in the next boot camp they sign up for you with expect to see from you?
Oh, they can expect to see massively expanded cyber range opportunities. My class is very lab heavy, and I like to keep students in labs as much as I can. So just our labs are constantly updating. I mean, we have an extremely aggressive plan going forward for the amount of new ranges and new labs that we're rolling out. So that's something that I'll be able to add to the classes. And I'm really, really excited about that. And the students that I've shared that with are excited about it too. The fact that there's so many more coming. Because, when we do the in-person classes, they do get extended access to the ranges. So I get emails from students all the time where they're excited about a new lab that suddenly showed up in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jack and Keatron, for sharing your stories and insights with us. And thanks to everyone who was able to join the session with us today. I hope you found the information useful and a little bit of the backstory about InfoSec at least interesting. So with that concludes our session. I hope to see you all in other sessions happening throughout the day, and hope you enjoy the rest of your time at Infosec Inspire. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Megan.